Good afternoon, everybody. Sure you enjoyed your lunch, and I hope I will not make it boring for you. So I'll try to be as brief as possible. And interestingly enough, the morning session was very detailed compared to what I will be presenting today. Right now, I will just try and give you an overview of the support that UNEP will provide and give you in the course of your INDC preparation. So I have So my presentation will just briefly touch on the COP decisions, which are related to the INDC preparation process. And with this, it will include also the submission timelines. I noted that in the morning session, some of you gave us an indication of when you will be expecting to submit the INDCs, and the reasons why we are preparing the INDCs, and the kind of support that UNEP will provide to you in the course of your INDC preparation, and the lessons that we have learned as countries and also as UNEP being the implementing agency. Apparently. Oh. Okay, so with the COP decisions, there are quite a number of COP decisions, so I only focused on 3 that brings in the INDC story together. So the first COP decision, which indicated the need for an international climate agreement, was in December 2011. That was during the COP 17. And this was a time when all parties agreed that there's a need to put more effort into the climate change action, and all parties need to take action. It did not go into categorizing developing and developed countries. So this is very important, that all countries, all parties will be involved in the climate change agreement, and this agreement needs to be concluded by this year in Paris COP. The second COP decision that I also took note of was in Warsaw, where parties were generally invited to initiate or intensify the preparation of INDCs. This decision was, I would say, not very specific on details of what INDCs was going to comprise of. And I recall very well there was nothing on adaptation that had been included at that point. The Lima call for climate action, that was the last COP that we had in December 2014, was very specific. It gave some guidelines that countries may want to consider when preparing their INDCs, as well as the submission timelines. So the submission timelines are as follows. Considering that there is an international climate agreement that needs to be concluded by December, the UN Climate Change Secretariat is requested to compile a synthesis report that includes all INDCs communicated by the 1st of October. So if your INDC needs to be included into this synthesis report, which is very important for its inclusion, it means then that the latest time you can submit the INDCs will be the 30th of September. That will be the latest cutoff point. Then it will take the Secretariat a month from the 1st of October to the 1st of November to prepare a synthesis report, taking, sort of like compiling all the INDCs that will have been submitted and preparing an aggregate report that will feed into the COP in Paris in December. So by 1st of November, we should have a synthesis report that will have been circulated and made available by the Secretariat. So why exactly are we preparing the INDCs? Going back to the COP decisions, I had mentioned about the need for an international climate agreement. And all this is just to make sure that the goal of 2 degrees Celsius is achieved. So once we have the INDCs prepared by countries, the Secretariat will be able to make a synthesis and analyze whether or not the aggregate INDCs meet the objective of the International Climate Agreement. And whether it meets the objective or not will then determine the next steps in the negotiations of the parties. So your INDC process is going to feed into the International Climate Agreement, which then gives you as a party an opportunity to participate and identify what your role could be in the climate change mitigation and adaptation talks. The other thing is also it gives us, the INDCs will enable you to make comparisons across the types of INDCs that you will present. As we proceed on with the workshop, and also from the morning session that I had from a few of you, you will notice that you have different options of presenting your INDCs. So it gives you an opportunity to make a comparison of all the types, the scope, ambition, and equity that each of the countries have proposed. And I will link it up to the last point, which is building trust among parties, because you will want to at least see each of the parties' intended contribution to the International Climate Agreement. It's also a means to facilitate clarity, transparency, and understanding of the INDCs. And for each of the parties, the Lima Climate Action requests that you should communicate something that represents a progression towards the climate discussions or your climate initiatives. Whatever you communicate should be over and above what you have been doing at the country level. So, maybe next slide. I just got interested in seeing what submissions we have to date on INDCs. And if you went into the UNFCCC website, there's a lot of information on that. So I have provided a link there. And to date, we have around 12 parties who have submitted their INDCs. And you remember that I mentioned that the Secretariat will do an analysis of the INDCs submitted. But before then, we already have very active organizations and initiatives who have gone ahead and done an analysis of the INDCs that have been presented. So I have also provided 2 links there, which you can click on, and it will give you an overview of what the field of the INDCs is as countries submit their reports. So back to UNEP and our support to you as you prepare the INDCs. I have categorized this into the financial aspect and the technical aspect. Moving on to the financial aspect, we have two different sources of funding from the GEF that has come through UNEP, and it will be available to you as countries. So the first one is when UNEP initiated the proposal preparation for supporting countries to prepare INDCs. We had 4 medium-sized proposals that we submitted to the GEF. We started this around last year, just before Lima. And by February, we had submitted all the 4 proposals. And you will see your country appearing in one of the proposals. The idea here was, for those of you who understand the GEF, each of you has a GEF star allocation for the 6th replenishment period. And a medium-sized project under the GEF will support up to a maximum of $2 million USD. We had around 9 countries, each giving around 200,000 USD of their star allocation, being under one project proposal, meaning you'll have a proposal of 9 countries which totals to about 1.8 million each country getting 200,000 of its STAR allocation. We have a few countries who had requested only to use 100,000 of their STAR allocation, and they're also included in those 4 proposals. So as of today, you will notice that all these proposals were approved by the GEF. So we, as UNEP, have the funds available to support you as you prepare your INDCs. The latest approval that we got was in April 2015. The second aspect, or the other avenue for funding or support, is through a global support program that was GEF approved. And this is a global support program that will be jointly implemented by UNDP and UNEP. And it is a 5-year program, and it will support you as you prepare both the national communications, your BURs, and INDCs. And you will not receive funds per se under the global support program, but there will be an assortment of technical assistance that you as a country will benefit from under the GEF global support program. So the second aspect where UNEP is also supporting countries is on the technical aspect. And just to give you an update of how far we are with the 36 countries, we have 31 of the countries who have already signed the project cooperation documents. And I'm sure most of you will know that there are those who signed the agreements pretty early in the year, and there are those who just recently, and we still are waiting for some to sign. So this has been a long process for us, just having email exchanges with countries and requesting to have this officially recognized and signed. So out of the ones who have signed the project agreement, we have around 10 countries who have conducted INDC inception workshops in their respective countries. And we have around 20 or even more countries who have prepared their INDCs implementation plans and roadmaps, which are very key for defining project deliverables. And the last point is just to emphasize that we've also had 2 INDCs workshops, both organized here. The first one was held in May, and this one. The next slide will be. So what have we learned in this process? The first bullet points will be focusing more on what we've noticed as UNEP as we support countries to prepare their proposals. That most countries proposed the ministries of environment or other environment authorities to be in charge of the INDC projects. And these are almost the same institutions that are involved in the national communication process. So this is something that we observed from the beginning. And we also noticed that most national governments will be using a lot of information that has been gathered over time during their national communication report preparation process, and that there is a big link between the INDCs and existing national priorities, development goals, and sectoral plans. And I think that is what we all observed this morning as each of you was making a presentation. The 2 last bullets is where we bring in our colleagues from DTU, and this is realizing that the time frame for preparing and submitting INDCs is very short. We had a lot of negotiations with the countries themselves and DTU to see how best we can support you, and most countries actually opted to have the technical assistance bit included in their project proposal. And hence the reason why you're all here, meaning that you've all signed the agreement showing your willingness to work and be supported with DTU. So we've used that avenue to work closely with DTU, and hoping that this workshop will give you that opportunity to interact freely with the project coordinators and get as much as possible from the DTU colleagues. So that for me is what I will say is an overview of how far we've come. And I will assure you that I have had an opportunity to interact with DTU when I was once in the Ministry of Environment with Kenya. And I remember there is a project that was funded again through UNEP. That was a technology needs assessment. And I remember I had a number of colleagues from DTU then supporting the government of Kenya in the TNA project. And we had constant email communications and follow-ups from the DTU team, just trying to push us to deliver on the project. So I believe that you've got the right team to work with you, and that hopefully that we all learn in the process of our preparation of the INDCs. Maybe just before I conclude, this is something that I'm sure most of you will raise, and I've already had discussions with you. It's more about the funds and funds availability to your country. We had a lot of email exchanges with most of you who've already signed project agreements. You have given us all the bank details, and you have basically done the bit that you're expected to do from us. And so far, you may not have received any initial cash advance to help you set up the basic structures that you need for the INDCs. We communicated with some of you and informed you that we were sadly going through a system of the UN being upgraded and being, for the reason of being able to serve you better in future. And that put us in a blackout period where we had minimum transactions. So we have come through that process, and in the next 1 week or so, we expect that you will be receiving funds to help you with the INDC process. And in the meantime, we encourage most of you to look for other avenues and sources of fund, knowing that once we are finished with our own internal restructuring processes, you will still be able to receive the funds. So that is something that I wanted to communicate with you. And for those who have had it really difficult to work without any funds, we apologize, and know that within the next few days, you will have funds for the INDC process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. I think that was a very nice introduction to my presentation. But before going on, I would like to know if you have any questions for Suzanne. This is your only opportunity to do so. No, of course not. No? Okay. So as I was saying, my presentation will be very briefly tell you what our technical assistance consists of. This was something we have agreed with our colleagues in UNEP, Nairobi, and Paris, and I hope it reflects as good as it is in the documents. So there are different areas for support. We've been working with these things. It was conceptualized more or less, as Susanna was saying, from last year, but actual work started for us back in January, more or less, with stock taking and looking at different situations in countries, etc. But as we had to be organized and present the terms of reference, we've been exchanging with Nairobi how best we can organize this support, and we have identified several areas. And the first was obviously to help you out to define the scope and nature of the INDCs, since this is the first thing and the most important thing that countries have to do when starting INDC process. The scope, as you know, depends on the content. Most of you have had doubts with regards if you include only mitigation, if you include adaptation as well. Others have also considered to include technology and finance and all that. But right now, I think we all are under the same understanding that most of you are working with mitigation and adaptation. So this exercise of stock taking and country background analysis was also basically done through you, but we have also done our part here in the office. We have asked you to prepare a very brief stock-taking report for which we have circulated one-page or template. We have received from most of you, almost half of you have not yet submitted this report, so it is very much appreciated if you do so. Then a detailed scope of work, including contents and nature of INDCs identified, which means for this, the team has been working on specific guidance. We will tell you later on those, and you have also received the guidance already. So analytical support includes various aspects. The issue here, or the intention, is to have a common platform, as INDCs can be very diverse depending on country circumstances and degree of development. And more importantly, to make it consistent with UNFCCC process and with countries' selected scope of work. So as I was saying, it is important also to have a a uniform understanding, especially for UNFCCC to have, to facilitate the process of reviewing and not reviewing, but compiling and making analysis of that. So it enables a comparable technical analysis by them. In the area of analytical support still, we are providing this through not maybe looking at different mitigation analysis methodologies or models, but we have decided to concentrate and to focus in one, and for that, it's Jürgen Fenhan is sitting back, who has been working a lot, trying to making them more comprehensive as possible, the GASMO model. So for those of you who have seen it, and maybe some of you are already familiar, it's not an easy model, but it is easier with if you compare with other big models like Markal, LEAP, and others that are sometimes very broad, or in other cases very specific. So the GASMO model has the advantages of, well, this will be broadly discussed tomorrow by Jürgen, and he will tell you the difficulties that it may take or not. It is very data demanding, so it needs a lot of effort to be done in countries for the sake of compiling information and fit the model, if you decide at the end to use the GASMO model. The adaptation team also has been working on identifying potential areas of support. Tomorrow you will have sessions dedicated to mitigation and adaptation that will be run in parallel. So more of this will be explained to you how to go about both areas of INDC. And then we have sort of promised, or we have included in the terms of reference, the organization of 2 training workshops here in Copenhagen. So the first one was from 19 to 21 May, where we brought 22 countries, participants from 13 countries. And just like now, I think we only failed to bring a couple of countries because of visa issues and all that. And this specific workshop, we have managed to gather 42 participants from 20 countries out of 25. I wrote the names of the countries who couldn't make it this time. It's Burundi, Eritrea, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and DRC. And only Eritrea is not participating because they couldn't manage to identify experts to be sent. And in the other case, it was logistics, mainly being visa problems. Don't say that. Burundi is here. Marco, no, Sebastian, but that's great news. So I think I made a mistake. Which is the other country, Sebastian, instead of Burundi? But we have 5 countries that couldn't make it, right? Okay, so we don't have...
Excusez.
Burundi is here,
Vous ne
sorry.
vous êtes pas trompé parce que le visa, on l'a eu vendredi soir à 16h.
Yeah,
Raison pour
probably
laquelle
some misunderstanding. But the good news is that obviously we are discussing contingency plans for those countries that didn't come, but this shortens the list. So, okay, sorry for the oversight. So the objective of this workshop is okay. You have it in your agendas as well, but it's mostly to discuss how we better assist you and identifying the seed types and content. We will be discussing later in the later presentations different types and concepts and context and all that of INDCs. Inform you on the use of these mitigation analysis models, but mostly concentrating on the GASMO model. We will be informing you on the development of adaptation component of INDCs. I hope we enable you. We did that in the morning, actually. We provided a room for you to share your different experiences and all that. Well, the way how we organized this was to do this first day dedicated to plenaries. Tomorrow we will be having parallel session in mitigation and adaptation. And the last day, we will have bilateral discussions of country coordinators with each country. So in country-specific technical assistance, this is actually an ongoing activity. We hope that as much as you require from us, we are here to assist you anytime you need. You just need to drop us an email with questions, with anything you may need. So this part of the assistance, especially from country coordinators, is an ongoing thing. But specifically what we intend to do during the process is to participate in one workshop that will be organized within your countries, basically to discuss the final draft of your INDC, so this is ready to be consulted internally and get the political backup. And then another important role, I think we have, all of us at DTU, and also our colleagues that are supporting us, consultants, different consultants. Some of them fortunately make it, and you have our colleagues from Alcor, you have Santono, you have Sunil, and who else? Fauzi. Fortunately, he's not in the room. So please use us. We are here to assist you. Well, after I think that's the only mission we are going to have to the countries for that workshop, but also to work with you on the final draft of the INDC. So this is the let's say the last stage of the process, where you will have to get the political endorsements of the INDCs, and obviously here you can also ask us how to do that. But this is mostly for you to do, and I'm going fast because of time. But Sudhir, you can complement after if I'm oversighting anything. And going to roles or responsibilities here in the center, as we have as overall management, our colleague in UNEP is George Manful, but as you all know, he's retiring, and I'm sure that Suzanne will be working with you as well. But we will have the support from George still for some months, and we are making sure that he stays there until we finish with INDCs. So he's not abandoning us. From our side, Sudhir said, Sudhir and I will be on the overall management, and basically technical backstop people for mitigation, Sudhir, Jorgen, and Dennis. they are there if, yeah, you will have bilateral meetings with them afterwards as well. And the technical backstop for adaptation is Annie, Todd, Rion, Pakriti, I mean, mostly our colleagues from adaptation. And here, these two slides contains the countries and the coordinators for each country in DTU. And we have organized this just for the sake of, division of labor. I will be coordinating all the African countries, but this is mostly the country coordinators will be directly engaged with you. Sorry? No questions. So here we have the countries from Asia, Central Asia, and Western Europe. I think it's only one, right? And Sudhir will be coordinating these countries. So maybe if we just ask my colleagues and you see who is Sudhir is here. Prakriti is sitting down there. She will be working with Moldova and Mongolia. Papua New Guinea, it will be Dr. Subarao. Is that true? Consultant based in New Zealand. Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan is Subash. He was here in the morning, I think. Okay, you met him. Afghanistan, Fatima will be supporting them together with Patriki. Fiji, again, Dr. Subaru, because of the distance and closeness. Maldives, Santonu and Jorgen will be helping Maldives. Myanmar, Sunil. Sunil, raise your hand if you didn't meet your colleagues in, Myanmar is not here, but maybe they are looking at you by internet. Sri Lanka, Sudhir, and Turkmenistan, Subash again. Yeah, that it is, and I hope you don't have questions. Yes, you do have questions.
Yes, Miriam, I only observed that in the two, what you call that, lists, I'm missing Philippines. I'm sorry.
Yeah, actually there are two countries missing, Philippines and Senegal, because this is list of countries which is supported through the UNEP DTIE project. Yeah? No, in the, okay. It's a different arrangement, and that's why we'll have a discussion over it on Thursday when we sit down.
Is there any other question? I was deliberately fast. So if you don't make questions, is that it means that you don't really need help from us. Okay, João.
Muito obrigado. Merci beaucoup, madame. Bon, je voudrais simplement, étant donné qu'on a les représentants du UNEP ici, qui est le partenaire des pays, n'est-ce pas, qui assiste les pays pour bien mener cet exercice. J'ai une question que je voudrais donc poser ici et qui concerne la programmation des ressources, n'est-ce pas, du FEM, du JEF, pour donc allouer cet exercice. Je le fais pas seulement en tant que coordonnateur de ce projet, cet exercice, mais aussi en tant que point focal opérationnel pour le FEM. C'était juste pour demander qu'il y ait davantage, qu'il une considération que le PNUE est en considération la faiblesse des pays, n'est-ce pas, en termes de ressources, surtout financières, pour mener de façon efficace au niveau national la partie des activités qui concernent donc le programme ou le processus INDC. Je vais essayer d'être plus clair. Les pays comme le nôtre, la Guinée-Bissau, qui est un pays post-conflit, le gouvernement fait face à beaucoup de problèmes. Donc, on compte dans la totalité avec les appuis du FEM, n'est-ce pas, les ressources disponibilisées par le FEM pour bien mener, pour réaliser en entier cet exercice au niveau national. Donc, je voudrais dire qu'il faut qu'on puisse peut-être tête à tête avec le UNEP, ou bien, c'est pour cela que je dis peut-être, ce n'est pas même le forum pour faire ça, pour présenter ça, mais on a trouvé qu'il y a des activités au niveau national qui méritent un peu plus de ressources pour pouvoir être réalisées efficacement. Depuis Lima, qu'on a dit que le processus INDC doit être inclusif, participatif au niveau national. Et dans ma présentation de la situation nationale, INDC, j'ai dit qu'on a un grand travail de amener l'ensemble des acteurs, surtout les secteurs de développement, donc la politique, pour s'allier, pour s'associer au processus afin de pouvoir donc faire la programmation qu'il faut. Ça demande une grosse organisation. Notre Inception Workshop et les différentes consultations doivent être d'une envergure nationale pour pouvoir permettre l'association de la plupart des stakeholders et ainsi pouvoir avoir un processus approprié, n'est-ce pas? Donc pour cela, nous, les ressources qu'on a vues que l'UNEP a prévues pour cet exercice pour nous, c'est vraiment, ce sera très difficile de pouvoir réaliser ou atteindre ces objectifs avec des ressources tellement limitées. Bon, c'est pour cela que je dis, c'est juste saisir, attirer l'attention de UNEP en tant que notre assistant, si c'est possible, de revoir un peu la programmation qui a été donc faite, et ainsi replacer, reconforter les différentes positions donc concernant les activités qu'on envisage de réaliser. On veut qu'on nous octroie dorénavant plus de ressources pour nous permettre de réussir les objectifs nationaux, notamment ces consultations au niveau national. Ce qu'on a, c'est vraiment insuffisant. Donc, merci, c'est la contribution que je voudrais donc porter à ce débat.
All right, I think this is more questions from our colleagues.
Yeah. Thank you. I think, responding in English, I think we can have this conversation separately and we'll be very open to look into your project implementation plan and see if there is a possibility to reorganize the resources that we have there, if it, of course, it makes sense, and if this is what you want. We don't have more resources, but we have a lot of goodwill, and we have DTU here to support you, and we have a country coordinator, and in the possibility that we can, we'll try to address your request in the best possible way. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other question? Yes.
Thank you. My question goes to Miriam. In your presentation, you have shown your planned technical assistance. My question is there flexibility for countries to request more technical assistance depending on their needs? I'm asking if there is some flexibility in your planning for countries to request more specific technical assistance depending on particular needs.
Yes, of course. Why we had to do this very, let's say, broadly terms of reference was to actually internalize or make some kind of legal background for our cooperation with our mother institution. We had to put in place these terms of reference, but maybe not reflecting really much what is needed from the countries, but making a fast assessment of what we can do actually to support. But we need to, on Friday, we will have to sit bilaterally with country coordinators. Well, you will have the opportunity to explain what your really needs are in terms of specific things related to mitigation or adaptation, in terms of if you need more methodological guidance, what kind of support is really needed there. Because also most of countries are having more than one assistance from other agencies and other donors. So we need to see how we the best approach to utilize best those resources and make a very good INDC. Do you have in mind any particular question right now that we can elaborate on?
No, I'm fine with the answer. I think we shall discuss further with the coordinators. Thank you.
Rion, one of our colleagues, is actually in charge of your country, so she will be there for you on Friday. Yep. Any other? Okay.
Sorry, maybe just for clarity, from Suzanne's presentation, did I get it right that the INDCs will be reviewed? Yeah? No? And if it's going to be reviewed, who's going to do the reviewing and what form of reviewing is it? I'm asking that because of the experience we have with the viewers, that you have this back and forth between UNEP DTIE and the country. Well, in the beginning, the review was just to look at the transparency, the completeness, but now you are getting technical review questions. I don't know, maybe because we were the first country to submit our viewer, we got a bit of a stick there. So I just want a clarity on that. Thanks.
Should I? Sorry, if I understand you correctly, what Suzanne was mentioning is that UNFCCC is not going to review any individual INDCs. They will only be receiving the INDCs, they will be putting them together, and they'll be making an aggregate assessment in terms of what is the total amount of tons of reduction all the INDCs put together will achieve, what are the different ways in which countries have expressed their INDCs, whether, as Cambodia mentioned, they would like to do it as actions, or as Ethiopia has done in terms of below BAU and Mexico has done. They would also look at what is the financial resources that have been requested by various countries in this. Similarly, they will look at the total aggregate reduction and compare it to the adequacy, whether that is enough to meet the 2 degrees. So they would not be providing or coming back to countries with any question. They might come back with questions of clarification in case they see that the it is not clear as to what the countries are saying, but they're not going to make any comments on it. So I think what the review would be more internal here in terms of where the countries need assistance in saying that, okay, can you please take a look at our INDCs and make our suggestions? So that is something which UNEP DTU would be undertaking. Thank you.
Thank you all for your, both for your presentation. Just a question in regards to what my colleague just asked. In regard to adaptation and the INDCs, how will adaptation and other components be reported in the assessment and the synthesis report that will be put together by UNFCCC, taking into consideration that it's those other components aren't exactly compulsory when reporting INDCs? Thank you. Oh, and how will that affect us developing countries that are actually reporting on our adaptation? Thanks.
A yes, no answer question. Are you contemplating including adaptation in your INDC? Okay, so tomorrow again we will have dedicated sessions to both. And unfortunately you only came one from Fiji, right? And so you will have to decide which group you want to be in. And if adaptation is, let's say, the weak area in Fiji, you can choose to go to adaptation session, where you will discuss more specifically on approaches and how to best reflect adaptation INDCs for your country.
I think I see your point in the sense, as I mentioned, and sorry, since I'm a mitigation guy, I have a natural tendency of omitting adaptation. Apologies, my colleagues from adaptation. As I was mentioning, the Secretariat would look at all the information provided in the INDCs, and they would then accordingly structure the report to inform the larger community that these are the different elements that countries have included. And my expectation is that this would also mean that they would also report that so many countries have reported on adaptation. These are the adaptation needs which have been reported. And these are the kinds of adaptation contributions that have been reported by countries. So it would definitely cover an adaptation section summarizing submissions by different countries. In terms of the second question that you asked, what could be the implications? We'll have a presentation and I'll come back to that question if you don't mind and address that.